Welcome, everyone, to episode 40 of the Dual Boot Diaries, PCWorld's weekly podcast where two longtime Windows users learn to use Linux daily. I'm one of your hosts, Adam Patrick Murray.
I'm Will Smith. We are not Linux experts. Well, I mean, we weren't when we started. I think now, let's say 40 episodes, we should be Linux experts by now. But each week, we are going to go through our experience using Linux daily with the whole show culminating in each of us deleting either Windows or Linux from our computers and moving on with our lives.
Speaking of culminating,
yeah,
I mean, we've talked about this already, but like it is going to culminate in three more episodes after this one. This is the first of the final four.
Yeah. Okay, can't do any more else. YouTube will come after us. But yeah, this is it. This is the big one, Elizabeth, as Red Fox used to say. That's a Sanford and Son.
Oh, the heart attack thing.
That's a big one. Yeah, anyway. I'm here for your 60-year-old sitcom references.
I love it. At least it was in color, right?
Was in color. It might have started in black and white, but that was always on TBS when I was a kid. That was always like after the good cartoons were off on Fox in the afternoon, you'd flip over and be like, oh man, Gilligan's Island's on in like 45 minutes. Let's watch Sanford and Son. And Sanford and Son, really, really funny, it turns out, because Red Fox was just, he didn't care.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're here to talk about.
The horse that
today.
talks.
Mr. Ed?
Mr. Ed.
Or Clarence, the talking horse. Or Clarence was a mule, I think, but there was a lot of animal abuse on TV back then.
Well, speaking of animals, before we get into it, we have some new animals in our life. Why don't we do a quick little show and tell?
Yeah.
Wait, who is this?
This is Toby.
Hi, Toby.
He's 6
Can you
months
see
old.
me?
He says I can. Hi. I'm watching you guys.
6 months with huge ears. Like these are like Yoda ears.
He's like a baby Yoda, but dog form.
Wait, I thought Baby Yoda's name was Grogu.
You love Baby Yoda. Have you seen the movie yet?
No, why would I see the movie?
What are you doing, dude? Oh my goodness,
I can see Grogu right there.
He says hi. Hello. How are you? Who's a good boy?
He's like, wait, why are you holding me up?
This is uncomfortable for everyone involved.
He's doing good being held.
He's a good boy. He likes being held.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to get down? Okay,
right.
see ya.
He's
bye,
like,
buddy.
Bye. That how tiny.
Oh, that is a little kitten. Hi, kitten.
This is Henry.
Hi, Henry.
Got 4 total of these little. I think we think they're snowshoe cats. So mostly white with little brown markings here and there.
Very cute.
Yeah, kind of like Grumpy Cat, like that kind of markings.
Yep. Famous. Never forget.
And man, they're super cute. They're like at the perfect age, like around 5 weeks.
Yeah.
They have so much energy and they play and eat and sleep and poop and that's it. But they really can't get into any, like really the only thing that is annoying is that they poop and then they just walk through their poop because they don't know.
Yeah, because they're kittens. They don't
not
know.
to walk in it. And so like we got to clean them multiple times a day. But other than that, they're just so little and so cute.
Oh, he's a little, his hair is popped up on the back of his neck. Is he worried?
No, they're just
That's just how he is. Okay,
yeah,
you're a floofy guy.
They got that baby fuzz.
Oh my goodness, what a good boy.
Yeah, and I'll literally just put all 4 of them on the couch with me, and they just like will play for like an hour.
That's
no,
nice.
they don't even get off. I mean, they'll accidentally fall off sometimes, but for the most part, they're just literally running back and forth on the couch, just climbing, biting each other, and just playing. And I'm just like, wow, this is great. You're keeping yourself busy. I don't even need to do anything.
Kittens are good, it turns out. Who knew?
Yeah. Oh, so cute.
What a good boy. And we're back.
Look at those cute animals. Yeah. Too bad they can't do the whole show with us, but they don't like Linux.
Toby hates Linux.
haters.
No, he's like, can I chew it? If no, then I don't care.
I think you should get that Steve Jobs plushie from our office and just let him
let him go at it. I wouldn't. Yeah. Why would I? I wouldn't let him do that. He likes Steve Jobs.
Does he?
Did I tell you?
He doesn't even know what a Steve Jobs is.
My daughter made Steve Jobs and Tamagotchi life. Do you know what Tamagotchi life is like? The kind of animal. Yeah.
I heard about this story on Brad and Will Made a Tech.
Oh, I talked about it already. Damn, too many podcasts.
It was a really good story, and I was just like, oh my goodness, she only knows Steve Jobs as the bad guy. This is great because
Yeah, she's your people. You can hear that at
She's primed for Linux.
Timecodes.content.town. Yeah, exactly. She's ready to go on the Linux. But yeah, so we should talk about why this is wrapping up for. I mean, it's kind of time. Like I feel like we've both reached the logical conclusions of our Linux journeys for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a multiple things going on. Even like there is something that is forcing it to stop. But even before that, in the weeks leading up, like we had already been kind of talking about, like, you know, where things are going and how things were feeling. So
Adam's got a new love in handhelds. He doesn't care about Linux anymore.
The handheld love is strong. I tell you what,
Tux is calling and he's like, oh, I don't know, wrong number. Bam.
I'm pretty sure the PSP runs Linux. So
no, it does not. That is absolutely not true.
Dang it. Okay, great. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, the actual impetus for this is that we have hired a couple people over at PCWorld to do full-time video stuff, which is awesome for me. But unfortunately, that means we're having to cut back on freelancer costs and. Like,
I'm a freelancer.
So we're not, unfortunately, I love working with you, dude. Like,
me too.
I can't believe it's been like 2.5 years of us working together, not only on this, like, which I feel like this is the thing we created together.
Yeah,
you've been on the Full Nerd, you've done countless videos with me, and like I've learned so much.
We've done some really goofy stuff. It's been really fun. We've also done some really smart stuff too. So like, you know, it's a good mix, but
little both. But so I mean, it is a bummer that we're not able to continue to work together, especially because of
I liked it when you all paid me, just to be clear. That's a thing I'm a fan of. So, you know.
Yeah. And weird, you don't want to work for free?
It's shocking that it's hard to understand, but here we are. Yeah.
Yeah. But even in the weeks leading up to it, like that impetus for having this, like I really felt like, and we kind of talked about this like behind the scenes of just like we're kind of using it daily. Like if the whole idea of the show is learning to use it daily,
yeah,
I think we're there. Like but at the very beginning, I thought I was going to walk into it and I was going to go a couple months, and I'm like, I can't use this daily, dog. Like I'm out. And the fact that it's lasted this long, and the like I feel like we've accomplished our mission. We are using it daily to various degrees, of course, but I never expected for it to slot into my life like this. And so I also have just been feeling like, okay, do we even need to do weekly check-ins anymore? Like we're over most of the humps, and a lot of the final humps, like especially for me on Adobe and things like that, like it's just not a problem that we can really get over for the most part. It's just like, oh, okay, you're always going to need to use Windows for, certain multiplayer games that don't have any cheat, at least for now. I'm always going to need access to Adobe, at least for now. And so, yeah, we've got little things here and there that we're working on, but do we really need to like show every piece of us trying to use it weekly?
Well, the thing that's changed is those early weeks where like the check-ins were, how can I make the computer work in a reasonable simulacrum of like what I expect a Windows computer to do? And we got over that much faster than I expect. So I guess this episode, we're going to talk about what we've learned. We're talk about why it's ending. We're talking about what we've learned. And then we're going to talk about some things that we like and dislike, and then do a quick check-in at the end.
Yeah.
But so yeah, like those early check-ins were really huge. And then it got to be just like the meat and potatoes of learning how to work the OS, which it was the part that I was kind of surprised, but I really enjoy, it turns out. Like learning, like it's stuff that with Windows, the last time I had the same feeling with Windows was probably when Windows 95 came out 30 years ago, right? And like since then it was one big wave at that early time, and then it's been a trickle of stuff that like you're like making a cake where you just put more layers of the cake on top, and the layers are thinner with each new version of Windows, because like the foundation's good, right? The foundation of, hey, stuff I learned in Windows 95 and XP and Vista and 7 all are still there, and most of that stuff, like that old control panel, still there. It's been there for 30 years now, right?
Yeah, if you want it, it's still there.
Yeah,
for now.
But like, I haven't had that big dump of new things to learn on a desktop OS since I switched to Mac OS in like 2008 or 2009. Whenever I switched over, when the IT department was like, "Hey man, you got to have a Mac to do work stuff as the editor of this magazine," And then Gordon started yelling at me every day, basically, about using my Mac instead of having a PC on the desk anymore. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, real quick before we get into the meat of it, I mean, I think we do need to put out there, which we talked about before, is that you're going to continue to do Linux stuff. I'm going to continue to do Linux stuff. It's just this avenue is not like, I mean, this avenue's ending. I mean, it has to end, but also like, I don't think this is the best form to do it anyway. So like, why don't you tell people what you plan on doing at linux.content.town?
Yeah, that's linux.content.town. It may or may not be up and live by the time this episode goes, because I'm waiting on Apple to approve some stuff at this point, which sometimes takes them like 6 hours and sometimes takes them like 48. It's just the episode 0, which longtime listeners will know is the thing that you dump into the feed before you do the first real episode. And it's probably going to be at least a couple of weeks before the first real episode goes up. But there will be a way to subscribe to the podcast there shortly. And the idea is pretty straightforward. So I want to do a little bit more of a variety show than this is. So it's but focused mainly on answering questions and helping people figure out stuff that they're having problems with. Because that's been like, we had a ton of help early on from people in the community that were generous with their time and energy and helped walk us through some increasingly complicated stuff. And I feel like I'm at a place now where I understand enough of the core stuff that I can and where to go to get information that's not just typing it into ChatGPT and getting whatever the hive mind thinks is the right answer to your weird Linux problem. That I can help walk people through this, because it is like, it's weird. Some stuff is really easy, like using a web browser, really easy in most of the Linux distros I've tried. Some stuff is really complicated, and like, I have a couple of applications on my computer that we'll talk about in the check-ins that just the scaling is always wrong on. And I am a little bit at a loss to figure that out. So I think having the format is going to be a couple questions, some regular interviews with people who are also switching to Linux. The focus is going to remain on desktop Linux, because I think that's interesting and important. Do some themed episodes around stuff like games and content creation and that kind of work, media stuff, all of those types of things. And then maybe a news segment when it makes sense, but not every week. So, and I think I'm probably going to start on a bi-weekly cadence, just in the interest of ramping up slowly and making sure I do it well. But as with everything, it's a conversation with the audience, and like what people who listen, like if you come in and hop into the community, I want to make the show that you guys want to listen to. So like, that's going to be like, nothing is written in stone. None of this is written in stone.
Well, and the reason I'm excited for it is because I mean, we joke around at the beginning, you have become a Linux expert. Like, I feel like that's,
I'm getting there.
You've grown in that way, and I've been able to take advantage of that because this is our podcast. But I almost feel like now the next thing you're going on to do is doing what you did for me for everyone else, you know, and just having that lane for people to pick your brain or get help from, or, you know, like venturing out and continue to be an expert that you are. Like for me, it's not the case. I do not consider myself an expert. The kind of stuff that I'm going to do is going to be more like helping noobs just get over that initial hurdle. Because like that's where I feel like I needed the most help, and then I can offer that kind of help. But like, you don't need to be an expert to do that. That's just more like a, hey, here's the basics to get you started kind of thing. And it's not going to be in a podcast form. It doesn't really make sense. Yeah, well, I mean, at least in my mind. Like, I mean, you know, we've always joked around about maybe a season 2 of Dual Boot Diaries, but like, I don't know. You know, like
sitting right there, man. It's just ready to go.
Right. Yeah. So like and also, I mean, I love what we've built, and it is nice to have like a logical conclusion to it. So I'm not going to say that Dual Boot Diaries could never maybe resurface in a different way, but for the most part, like, I just don't think this format really makes sense. Like, yeah, for going forward. So I like, you're the expert. You're going to do more expert stuff. I'm still more the noob, and I'm going to help other noobs.
Look, if I was doing a Dual Boot Diaries season 2, I would get you and Roman from Macworld and have Roman install Windows and you learn to use Mac OS again, and then go back and forth on that, because I think that would be fantastic. I would love that.
I love Roman. Man, I would love to hear his take on current Windows, because I actually don't even know if he's used Windows.
He hasn't in a long time. His kid
I have been dabbling a little bit with Mac OS because of, like that work machine that I film on. And I'm just like, oh, I do not miss it.
Let's see. The thing I could use help with right now from the community is I need some questions to seed that first episode. So where can people give you those questions? Well, that's what I was about to tell you. You can email them to linux.content.town. That email address is live now. It comes to my inbox. And if you can do like a 1 to 2 minute audio file, you can just grab your phone, open up the voice recorder, hold it up like this, where you hold the microphone end of the thing right to your mouth, and just ask your question. If maybe write it out in advance and then read it if you want. If you don't want to do that, you can send me a written question as well. But yeah,
like written on paper, like they can send you snail mail.
I don't want. Write it in an email and then send the email to linux@content.town. Okay. But yeah, the voice questions priority, and try to keep them like a minute to 2 minutes at most, just so that I don't have to do a lot of audio editing. But yeah, I would really appreciate that, and at some point in the future, I'd like to do some live stuff too. So
yeah, a question from the front here, Adam. Adam with PCWorld.
I'm not accepting it here, but you can go ahead and ask. I'll just
Adam with PCWorld. Can I ask questions?
I don't know.
I'm just going to be in the audience.
Can you ask questions?
I don't know.
You seem like you can. You just asked a question just then. Yes, you may ask questions, Adam.
Maybe I will be the first one, because before this episode goes live, nobody else will have access. So I'll be your first audio question.
Yeah, well, the email address isn't live yet. I got to turn that on after this episode. So we're doing great though.
Right,
yeah. So that's what's coming.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it's I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm a little scared about starting a solo podcast. I haven't done that in a really long time, or ever. Well, I guess actually
that was going to be a follow up, because most people know content.town to be associated with Brad and Will made a tech pod. Mm-hmm. Does that mean Brad is going to be involved in any of this, or
that's not the plan right now? He's pretty busy with Nextlander stuff. Content.town is a Will Smith site that we use for the tech pod, because all of the tech pod related URLs were not available or incredibly expensive when we started the podcast. So
okay. For some reason I thought content.town was both you and Brad. You're saying
the production for the tech pod is a different company entirely we don't talk about.
Got it.
It's private.
Oh, okay.
You can probably find out.
Spoilers.
Actually, I think it's on the website, but anyway.
And then also, I guess we should just announce it right here before we move. Will OS coming this fall.
Nope. Not
Can you
all.
confirm
Absolutely
which
not.
kernel of Linux it's going to be on? I
7.
think they just announced 17.
Yeah, we're just doing
Will OS.
We're not doing Will OS. I'm not.
No Will. That's what I was hoping. I was hoping you were going to say, "Hey, listen, I'm stopping Dual Boot Diaries because Will OS. I just need to dedicate all my time."
Look, the second podcast is the journey to Will OS, and that's it's a 3-episode special run. It's just hey, here's how to make a flake in NixOS that installs these 5 pieces of software. Let it rip. It's fine.
I think we'll get there. I think we'll get there.
I don't. Look, I have the machine over here. It's working in a way that I don't ever have to think about it. And that's exactly what I want. Like once a month, I do an update. It usually works. And I just hit the buttons on my Steam Deck to make the thing go. Honestly, what I need to do is make a little robot so I can have a button on my Steam Deck that I press to hit the power button.
Stream Deck.
Did I say Steam Deck? It could be on my Steam Deck too.
Oh, okay.
I need a button on the Stream Deck that I hit, and the robot just presses the power button on that computer, so I don't have to. Like turn around and reach back 1.5 feet.
I love it.
That's exactly what I need. It's what the kids crave.
Yeah, it's what the kids crave. The kids also crave ads, so we got to take a break before we move on for an ad or two. We're back.
Thanks, Microsoft.
We've got a couple. Yeah, we've got a couple segments that we're going to dive into here. Mm-hmm. First, I think we're going to just kind of quickly recap our journey, talk about the things we've learned, likes, dislikes, all that kind of stuff. I think some of this will also maybe do a little bit in the end, a little bit of navel gazing. But for the most part, I still think it's worth shouting out some important things that we've learned, because, it's been almost a year, and that's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. When we started this, I think you thought it was going to be like 5 episodes, and I expected it to be at least a year, because I remembered when I started using Debian in like 2003 or 2004, it was a good 3 months before I was able to do anything more than just like use a word processor and use a web browser on that computer. And every time I had to update it, it was terrifying because I assumed that something was going to break. Like, the nice thing about the rolling up distro, here's a thing that I've learned.
Oh no.
The nice thing about the rolling distro is you desensitize yourself to your fear of updates almost immediately, because you just do it twice a day. You don't feel anything anymore. I got nothing inside now. I'm just like, yeah, it's 5 minutes before a really important meeting that like I need to be present, or I'm going to lose tens of thousands of dollars over the next year. Yeah, no, I got it.
Roll.
Yeah. Update. What have you learned, sir?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I learned that like you sometimes you have to stick with stuff, and sometimes you have to push yourself forward. Yeah. Not to throw shade, but I feel like most of the content that is on YouTube is usually one video, maybe a quick series of videos of people being like, "Oh, I tried Linux for a week," or "I tried, switching my laptop to Linux for a month." And then making a video out of it. And that's kind of one of the things we didn't want to do. We wanted to actually sit down with it and kind of just go through the process, which has been good. I mean, not everyone can just start a podcast to help push you through the hard times of learning it. But like, rather than doing some sort of weird stunt testing and like just making content out of it, I learned that you can sit down and just try something new and just learn something new. And that like, I don't know. I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, I think, and like, you joke that you can't just start a podcast, but like, I think this is why a lot of people do Linux blogs, right? Like, I think this is why a lot of people who are doing this end up with a blog where it's a nice way to update your documentation for how you did something, like how you figured out how to solve this problem. And it gives you the same basic outlet that we have. And like, it's funny because like, I probably wouldn't have done a podcast, but I definitely would have done the same kind of documentation that we've done on each of these episodes, had I not done the podcast. And once you have the notes, you might as well just talk about it for an hour or two. It's no big deal,
right? But yeah, I mean, one of the other big things is like, I guess with any new endeavor like this that takes a lot of time and effort, you have to just kind of push through, right? There's always going to be something that you're going to know. Yes, people are like, oh yeah, it's just easy. It's just like Windows. You install the distro and it's just like Windows. Your grandma can do it. It's not that easy, but like to take the right amount of time to sit down and be like, oh, okay, how is it different? Why is it different? Like there's the Brad Shoemakers of the world who are like, no, you should know, exactly what every command in your terminal is doing. I think that's maybe a little too much to ask for everybody. But for the most part, like being able to understand the difference between what Linux is versus a kernel versus a distro versus a desktop environment, like it was nice to be able to unravel those little threads. And do I need to have a deep understanding of each one of those? No, but at least it's given me a better understanding of what an OS is.
Well, getting the lay of the land, it turns out, is important. Like knowing, like I think of this as the hardware store problem. Like this is the thing we talked about on Tested a bunch back in the day. But like there's always a little weird hardware bit that will do the thing that you want to do. But like, it's hard to find that stuff on the internet often because you don't know what it's called. And if you just say, hey, I want a pipe with a 30-degree bend and a 1/4 inch internal diameter and all that, the search engines aren't going to come up with the thing that you're actually looking for. But if you walk into the hardware store and walk down the aisle with the other things that look like the thing you want and just start opening drawers, eventually you'll find the thing. And Linux has a lot of that problem. Like when you boot into that emergency mode because you've jacked up your bootloader somehow, and you're just starting out, you don't know, hey, that you don't know that that's a bootloader problem. You're like, oh, okay, the thing that makes the mouse and the pictures on the screen is now just text. Well, how do I fix this? And you have to like reverse engineer your way back. And that's the first of the big humps to get over, I think, is like, hey, something broke. What do I even search for to figure out how to fix this?
And that's why I think some of the YouTube stuff out there is like a little bit disingenuous, because it's like, oh, hey, I picked Linux Mint as my distro because everyone told me to, and then I tried to game on it and it's not as good for gaming. What the hell? This sucks. You know, it's like, okay, well, you need to take a little bit of time to understand what you're doing. Like, I understand it's good for content, but also at the same time, like, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice by not understanding just the bare minimum before you go in.
Well, and I mean, I think it's totally okay to like dig in and learn, like the way you went at it, where you just started installing distros like crazy and you were installing a new one 2 or 3 times a week. Distro Adam, they call him.
That did help me to learn the differences.
Yeah,
sure.
Because I remember one of the early episodes, you were like, oh, this is the same as the other one, like from a what I see perspective and how I interact with the computer perspective, right? And that realization helped a lot. For me, the big thing that I was surprised by was that I expected it to be okay, right? Like I knew that this was going to be usable for the stuff that I do outside of like DRM games and Adobe stuff. And I knew that because I played a lot of games on the Steam Deck over the last few years, and I'd done a lot of work with Bizite on like living room PC type things and stuff like that for PCWorld over the last year or two. And like I knew I had good boundaries on what I knew would work and what wouldn't work. The thing I didn't expect is that it would actually, in not all cases, because the quality of user experience design and UI design is wildly divergent from application to application across the Linux ecosystem. But like when it's good, it's as good or better than Windows or Mac OS. Like when it hits real hard. And now there's misses and there's weird stuff, like I said, like that scaling thing I'm having right now. But like, I didn't expect to come in and be like, oh no, I absolutely like the way this computer works now better than I did when I was running Windows on it for these following reasons. And like, I was really surprised by that. Actually, I think it's a kind of amazing revelation for the open source folks. Good job.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I don't know. It's sometimes it's hard to look back and be like, okay, what was my headspace at the beginning? I've tried to listen to some of those early episodes, but you never quite know. I mean, one of the things that was very apparent, and I do remember and still have a little bit, is just like opening the terminal window just feels like, oh, I can't think of a good analogy, but like you're opening something that you could literally stick your hand in and break at anything at any point.
It's like doing a car maintenance job that's one layer deeper than you're comfortable with, right? Like most people, if you have an hour, can learn how to change the oil of a car. It's not particularly difficult if you have the right stuff, right? But
like, if you pop the hood and start pulling wires, you're like, okay,
yeah.
I could do damage to the point where this car isn't going to run.
Yeah. Like you have to change a thermostat, or you have to change brakes or something like that. Like you don't want to mess up a brake swap. It turns out that's real bad. It's some real downhill consequences, downhill consequences to that. Yeah, probably. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of the stuff that you get into the terminal, like you can, that is one of the big differences, is that like Windows will be like, hey man, are you sure you want to do that? And Linux is just like, yeah, you want to delete your boot partition? Let's go, baby. We can do that. But then also it gives you the tools to fix it when you do. So it's kind of like, I can't remember, there was a guy I knew in college who had a motorcycle that was just like a beater motorcycle that he liked to work on, and he would be like, hey, watch this, and he'd go out. He was a real, not a smart guy, but he would run out and he would just like lay the motorcycle down for fun to see, because then he'd be like, well, I'm gonna fix it up tomorrow, and he'd come back 2 days later and it'd be back to normal. He'd have repainted the painted bits that got scuffed up, and like you know, it was a learning exercise for him to learn how to fix the things he was constantly breaking. But anyway, yeah, that's what Linux is. It's a motorcycle you can lay down at any time and not hurt yourself and not end up with one leg shorter than the other.
There you go. But I also feel like being able to use some very simple commands and understanding, oh, okay, or seeing the patterns of what it is and being like, okay, sudo is giving, super user access kind of thing. It's like you need to use that in a variety of situations when you're working in the terminal. And so like, do I understand the deep intricacies of it? No, but I see the pattern of using that, or like a dash Y or DNF, for Fedora is the package manager, like certain things like that you almost just dip your toe into a little bit and being like, okay, here's a little bit here, a little bit here. And I'm seeing some consistencies here. What is a pipe? What is a grep? Like that kind of stuff, and just building your language. And I think early on, one of the things that you had stressed and others too, is that like there's no such thing as a terminal expert. Like there's so many commands and so many things that you can do, and you can approach it for so many different ways. And that really helped me be like, oh, okay, well, I don't need to be an expert. I just need to bite off as much as I can chew. And I think the best analogy for me would be like Photoshop. Like what I do in Photoshop compared to what you can do in Photoshop is pretty minor. But I'm able to go in and do the things that I need to do. And if I ever wanted to go deeper, there are hundreds of other tools in there that I can use as well. So
it's like the difference between me picking up an acoustic guitar and strumming a song and like Jack White wailing something out that I'm like, well, how did you make that thing make that sound? Like there's a big skill ceiling gap there, but it's still like, I still have fun playing the guitar, right? I'm never going to be Jack White. I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that too. I'm not a big Jack White fan. So.
Your Linux terminal stuff is going to pay off, because did you see that they put core utils in Windows again? So you can just install a package that gives you like ls and grep and awk and cat and all those, and just like not in the not in the Windows subsystem for Linux, just in Windows now.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, yeah. I did not see that. I heard you and Brad talk about the Linux environment in Mac OS. They talked about at WWDC, but I missed that Windows one.
They basically Mac OS already has those commands because it's based on BSD.
Well, not the commands. I mean the
you're talking about the WSL
containerized
stuff.
thing.
Yeah. So now basically Mac OS has WSL is their equivalent of WSL, which is like a shell that runs Linux commands basically. So.
Well, I'll tell you another thing I've learned, because I've had some people say this before of like, oh, well, why didn't you just use WSL in Windows to learn Linux? I found it like, I mean, listen, I can't go back and make that choice and say, hey, here, compare and contrast. But like, it felt like that wasn't committing enough. I actually kind of liked just having it run on the bare metal and just installing it like I would Windows on a laptop or a desktop and learning that way rather than doing it through a container.
Well, and WSL isn't for desktop stuff, right? Like, I guess you can run desktop applications in WSL, but like for you're still living in the constraints of Windows. And the one of the reasons we started this is because if 2025 was the year of Linux, 2025 was also the year of not Microsoft. Right. Yeah. They were jamming Copilot and everything. They were eroding market share by making bad decisions. And a big part of this was, hey, can we live in a world without Microsoft? And it turns out, yeah, you can. It's fine over here. I mean, I have to reboot to play Destiny. It's kind of a pain in the butt. But other than that, also, I'm not going to probably play that much more Destiny, but whatever. The other thing that I had forgotten, I mean, I knew this, but I kind of forgotten it. It turns out I like computers. Like I enjoy computers. I enjoy getting them to do the things I want them to do. It's fun to learn new things. And those two things go together in a really nice way. And learning a new OS or a whole new way of thinking about how you make computers work is fun. And like, I came into this with a pretty good base because I've been running Linux servers in the garage for years now. But this is a whole different level of day-to-day computing and getting like this diverse hardware ecosystem that lives on my desktop and in my office, all working in concert was quite fun. Like, it's really satisfying. So,
actually, this is a question I've been meaning to ask you. Like, do you think with what I have now, the knowledge I have now, I could then be able to like be in a better place to set up my own home lab stuff?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the piece you're missing is probably Docker container stuff.
Yeah, that stuff still kind of eludes me a little bit. I mean, obviously, I set up the Windows VM stuff, but like that, I still feel like that's a little bit different than the Docker stuff. I still don't fully understand, but you know.
So Docker is basically just Flatpak for server apps, right? So for stuff that generates a web page or that does something in the background or whatever. Like, it's like Plex runs in a Docker container for me, and all it does is expose a port that you can connect to for the Plex clients or the web client or whatever. And like, there's nothing else to it. It just runs in the background. So like you're 90% of the way there. The trick is, and I'm going through this process right now because I'm rebuilding my home server for the first time in a decade, which we'll talk about. But yeah, it's both more complicated and less complicated than you'd expect. You do have to do everything with the command line, but basically what you're doing for the command line is setting up the machine with the OS that you want and the file system that you want and all that stuff. And then rebooting and plugging it into the wall and then going back to your desktop and typing SSH and then that machine name and logging in and doing all your installing Docker and stuff from the command line. And then you just connect to the web interface for your Docker manager, Portainer, or whatever you end up choosing, and you start installing your Docker containers. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah. So what other stuff you feel like you've learned?
So, like, you asked this question, what have we learned over the last 10 months? And I was like, I should probably have some sort of catharsis about the magical journey that we've gone on together and like how I've learned something important and deep about myself. And like, but I kind of got nothing. I mean, I think the big thing is that I look at, partly because of the Linux stuff and partly because of the kind of collapse of the consumer PC space in a lot of ways over the last six or 8 months. Like, I'm looking at hardware a little bit differently now than I ever have before. I've always been like, look, I grew up reading Boot. I'm a pure PC power guy, right? Like, I went to the Gordon Mong school of bigger, bar, better, faster at all costs. Sure, it's sucking 500 watts out of the wall, but it's 3% faster, so that's fine. And you know, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at AMD graphics cards when I have a 5090 sitting here. I'm like, this would probably run a little bit easier and like would be a little bit less hassle to keep going. And it's changed the way I look at stuff like laptops and like I'm looking at laptops as, oh, do I actually want the latest greatest thing, or do I want something that's like a half step back that's going to be easier to run, and like all of my stuff's like people have already figured out all the annoying stuff and it just works, and that's the first time that's happened in my adult life, really. Like I've been on the pure PC power train since the 96 or 97. So
I mean, yeah, like we've been in a privileged position where we get access to stuff before it hits the public, and it's just like, oh, it's the newest, fastest thing. This is awesome. And then, yeah, through the course of this, I mean, I guess I've kind of by force of nature had to figure this out as well, is that, oh, it's okay to use older hardware because you can get new experiences on them. And yeah, sometimes it is better to I've heard plenty of people say this, especially like games. Like, oh, you know what? I wait to buy a game for a year. Number one, for the discount, but then also it gets patched up and the experience is different than at launch. But I've always had a hard time hopping on that train. But now I feel more than ever like, oh yeah, if I were to buy a personal laptop right now, I probably wouldn't buy the latest and greatest. It's like, obviously we're talking about it in the context of Linux and how, you know, it takes some time for stuff to get into the kernel, and you know, maybe you have a piece of hardware that just doesn't have full support yet, and the longer you wait, the more chances are that it will get support. I feel like I appreciate that more as well.
The other thing is that a lot of the stuff I thought was going to be the hardest wasn't really as hard as I expected. Like, just getting the computer working was way easier than I expected. The things that were easy, like finding a video editor that works and finding a 3D modeling and CAD programs that I can use, and finding, I don't want to say replacements for Photoshop and Premiere, but like things that I can use in place of them, at least as long as I'm not doing like hellishly complicated PSDs and stuff like that, was really straightforward. And like the ecosystems around things like OBS and Krita and all these tools that I use on the day-to-day now are really robust and good and full. They have wonderful communities of people that are participating, and like that stuff's all quite good. So yeah, just generally speaking, it's been like the hard stuff. The stuff that's been hard is like weird hardware support for things like Elgato cameras or MediaTek Bluetooth radios that when they shut down improperly don't come back until you completely power cycle the machine for inexplicable reasons. I don't know why on earth that happens, but it sucks and is always a problem. So yeah, like weird hard video capture stuff. It turns out USB video. Who knew I'd be going back to USB video capture in 2026 when I've had PCI Express cards in my machines for the last decade. So yeah.
Yeah. I think the last thing that I kind of want to cover here is just like aesthetic kind of stuff. I walked into this not realizing how much I don't really appreciate the look and feel of Windows. Like, yeah, yes, there was that whole debate. Core. Well, I mean, there was that whole debate of like when Windows 11 came out, a lot of people were like, oh, I hate the look of it. It looks different and this and that. And like, yes, I agreed, but also at the same time, I was like, yeah, but it still doesn't look that different. And I don't really love it, but I didn't have another way to quantify it other than, oh, well, it doesn't look like Mac, but then I've got plenty of reservations with Mac just because it's a Mac. And so I thought those things were tied together until I started to use GNOME and just be like, oh, okay, like this layout kind of works better for me. And it's divorced from the Mac ecosystem in a way that my brain was like, oh, okay, cool. I kind of like this design language and how it works. Even though, yeah, I mean, it is more Mac-like than something like KDE or Windows kind of thing. And I did not expect to really come in with that strong of opinions of how the computer looks like. And then, I mean, you took it to the nth degree and was like, Windows? You don't need Windows at all.
I have Windows.
What if everything just scrolled and snapped in place? And tiles, yeah.
I mean, look, I maybe 3 months in, I was like, oh, what are these tiling window managers? And then people were like, oh, you're going to fall down a hole. And I did indeed fall down a hole. I tried Hyperland. I tried Sway. I tried some of the other stuff.
You hit the bottom of the hole.
Neri with the scrolling tile manager provides a level of structure and predictability to my desktop that I absolutely love. I did the other day add a floating desktop for apps that should float. So I have both floating and tiling stuff on my desktop now. I hope you're happy. It's mostly like pop-ups and like splash screens before a game launches, stuff like that.
Okay, I was going to ask. I was like, yeah, what specific things are you wanting to be not tiled?
Yeah, so like if you have a context, like if you have a settings pane that opens when you hit your preferences button inside an application, it's nice that those are floating because like you want them to be able to like stay in place, and then the tiles become the background on that desktop basically. So you have two layers essentially.
You know what's funny? I've been kind of dealing with this a little bit on the Windows side because the new Xbox mode that's on handhelds, but now you can theoretically get it on any Windows device, tries to do that. And so yes, the Xbox interface or your Steam interface full screens by default, but yeah, if you launch a launcher or some other sort of thing that pops up, it defaults to taking up the whole screen. And sometimes that scales weird. Sometimes it scales normal, but like it's like the Windows people are trying to figure it out as well. Like, hey, what should be a pop-up? What should be its own full screen experience? It's a weird one.
It's funny because I think Windows 2.0 was just tiling. I don't think there was any kind of window overlapping. And so anyway, we just need to go back to the like late 80s, early 90s to make Windows good again. It turns out. Who knew?
There you go.
Yeah, so that's what I got on the stuff I've learned. Should we jump into likes and dislikes? Things we hate, things we love?
Yeah, no, I mean, once again, I'm sure we'll talk about more of this kind of stuff in the final episodes. But yeah, I think there are still things here in the likes and dislikes that are worth calling out.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the community has been way more refreshing than I expected. There's always
good.
There's that stigma of, oh yeah, Linux people are just so opinionated and divisive and will be in your face and will tell you all about their favorite distro. And while that is true, there are people out there like that. The community that we built, at least, and the communities that we've been dabbling in, everyone's just been so nice and welcoming and helping of each other, and like in a way that I did not expect. And maybe that is because of the times we're in, and because a lot of people are in the same boat as us, just trying it out for the first time, that it's drowning out the people who've been around for a long time. But man, has it feels fun to be a part of this community.
Yeah. It's I mean, I think a lot of the stuff that I use in the day-to-day came from community recommendations. Like early on, Nonken, I think, said, hey, you should look at Teal Deer. It's basically man pages, but written for humans to read. And it's TLDR is what the command is. And it gives you like the short version of, here are the 5 or 6 commands that are probably the most likely things you're going to use for this particular command line tool or whatever. Stuff like that has been incredibly useful, and having that community kind of gently nudging us when we're making boneheaded decisions has been awesome. So cheers to the community.
Yeah, definitely.
I love nobody trying to sell me anything when I use my computer. It's so nice.
Dude, like it's weird. Like, it really is refreshing to just log in and be like, oh, it's just the operating system. It's not trying to sell you any services. Yes, there are services that could be had, but like, it's not in your face. It's not reminding you after an update. It doesn't give you a whole new splash screen before you log in. And like, you know, I mean, I guess Microsoft is a business. They're obviously trying to squeeze more money. But like, at the same time, it's really refreshing for the OS just to be an OS.
Look, and to be clear, like, I would happily pay for the OS, and people have directed us toward like cheap enterprise, or like not cheap, but like enterprise pricing for single use, basically, so you can get the enterprise version of Windows and how you can do that. They make it difficult enough that I'm not going to go through those hoops. But like, if Microsoft paid me hey, we're not going to harass you to buy Game Pass and OneDrive, I'd give them a couple $100 every version for the OS without it. I mean, I did it for 20 years. I'm happy to pay for the OS, right? Like, they don't, like, this is a problem that they created by saying, hey, look, Apple stopped charging for OSs because they're getting their share of the chunk of change off of hardware sales. Then they just stopped charging for the OS because they were like, we're going to make up for it on ads and services. And like, it turns out it sucks. It sucks being constantly hit for $20 a month on 3 different things all the time. And anyway, and then they're making,
this isn't just a Microsoft thing.
No, like, Apple is almost as bad. When I set up a Mac a few weeks ago, and I was shocked at how much, I mean, in fairness, they only hit you for one subscription that encapsulates, like, they give you hey, pay $20 and you get all of our stuff, which is like, hey man, Microsoft, if you're going to knock something off, maybe consider that the Microsoft all-in family plan, $800 a month, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, but it stacks up too. We're talking about it in the context of OSs, but when everything else in your life is also trying to sell you subscription, from streaming services to phone apps and things like that, it's just like, it really is grating. And to not have a piece of your electronic life do that for you is really nice.
Well, and at the same time, I increasingly feel good about my decision to not give Microsoft money anymore. Like, we don't need to get into the whole, this is kind of a full nerd topic, I guess, but like, hey, we're going to gobble up a whole bunch of game studios over the last 5 years and spend billions of dollars, and then when we can't immediately recoup that spend, we just start shutting them down, it feels bad. Like, I'm fine on the don't give Microsoft money train these days. Feels okay. Let's see. Can we talk about well, I guess we talked about this before kind of, but like, having control over everything on your computer, it turns out, is really nice. Just being able to, like, if you don't like the way something works, being able to change it, it turns out is really good.
I mean, yeah, it's the freedom of control, but then on my side, it's like the endless things that you can be doing with it. Like, yes, it can be a little scary to be like, oh, hey, you can make this whatever you want. But at the same time, it's also awesome because, I mean, yeah, you showed me in Neri, you're like, hey, how rounded do you want the corners of the windows to be? How much space between the tiles do you want to have? Like, it is just, the options are limitless. You literally have control over every piece, whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
And that can be daunting, but it also can be super empowering and really is nice.
Well, and it also means that often if you have a question about something, you want to do something weird, somebody else has already done that work, and you can go find their forum post or blog post or Reddit post or whatever, and it explains how they did it, and then you can use that as your jumping off point, which is really convenient.
And it also brings back a level of freedom.
Yeah.
Like not even freedom's not the right word. Personalization. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, my Linux does not look like your Linux, does not look like somebody else's Linux. Like, people in our Discord will share pictures of their desktop, and it's like so customized to look how they want it to be in a way that, like, you can, I mean, sure, you can do a little bit with Windows, of course, and some of it is sanctioned, some of it's not. But for the most part, Windows looks like Windows, Mac OS looks like Mac OS. Linux can look like however you want to.
Well, and it can work however you want to too. Like those two things go hand in hand. I remember I used to look at those screenshots of people who'd done crazy stuff with their Linux desktops, and I was like, how do you end up in this? Like, how do you end up in this situation? You've made a thing that literally only you know how to use now, right? Which, like, but it happens a little bit over time. Like, there's a gradualness to this where every time, like, sometimes it's become, I don't want to say it's a distraction or a time waster or whatever, but like sometimes you're not getting the thing done that you need to get done. You need to go do something else for a little bit. And like, hey, I'm going to futz around with my Neri config and make my window manager work a little bit more the way I want it to, is a perfectly viable use of time in those situations. And the end result is that on all my computers, it behaves in a predictable way that makes me happy every time it does its thing. And like, that's really dope. That's something, like, I can't say that about Windows. Like the other day I was trying to do something and Windows came on and was like, hey man, you got to reboot. And I was like, I just turned you on for the first time in a week. Why are you rebooting? It's like, you got to install this update. I was like, no, don't install the update. And it was like, nope. Hey, don't worry, man. Your data's safe. We're taking care of you. Okay. You're going to be fine. Oh, you don't get that with Linux. Linux will let you make all the mistakes.
Yeah, for better or worse.
Yeah.
And actually, I mean, that is a dislike that I guess I have that I didn't put on this list. If we want to get into some dislikes, is that they're, depending on the distro, depending on the scenario, there are way less safety nets.
Yeah.
Like, you know, which can be a good thing, but also can be a bad thing for somebody like me who I've screwed plenty of things up and I've had to reinstall plenty of times because I'm like, you know what? This is not how I want it to be. And it's quicker for me to just reinstall and start fresh because the safety nets are just not there.
I feel like at the same time though, the tools to like, it's on you to figure out the tools that you need to create your own safety nets, right? Like, if you're using ButterFS, you can install Snapper and get snapshots that will recover you from everything but like catastrophic file system mess ups, right? Like I did some reading and was like, will Snapper protect me if I jack up my boot partition by changing my boot manager from Grub to Limine? We talked about this a couple weeks ago. And it turns out no. But also it turns out that there's a whole process for restoring your boot partition if you mess up your boot partition. So I went for it and it worked. And like, I wouldn't have expected that to work. But I also felt confident that if I messed anything up too bad, I could always either restore my boot partition or if I had a kernel patch go wrong the other day when I was doing an update and I was like, oh, this is terrible. And I couldn't boot. I was like, what am I going to do? And I was like, oh, right, snapshots. I booted into the snapshots. I picked the one before the update that went bad. I restored that, and then I reran the update, and it worked the second time. Or I fixed the problem that was causing the update to fail. And like, the tools to prevent you, the guardrails are there. You just have to install them. Is the way to think about it.
And luckily, I mean, there are distros with guardrails, right?
Yeah.
Immutable distros like Bazite, like, is saying, hey, you know what? You just want a game, and we're going to put some guardrails on there. And sure, you can get past guardrails if you really want to, but for the most part, you're probably wanting this to have the guardrails on. So, like, both things exist.
Cache has a button that says, hey, do you want to install snapper support, right? And on most of their bootloaders, most of the default configurations now, it just works. And then you have those there so that when you have a problem and you go on the forum, they're like, hey, can you just roll back your snapshot? Then you're like, oh yeah, I do have these snapshots. I should do that. And it turns out that's good. Let's see. I've got a dislike.
Okay, please.
How about poorly supported hardware? I'm gonna say at this point.
Well, by companies or by the community?
Look, man, I think it's on companies, right? Like, I think that at this point, especially in enthusiast spaces, if you're selling hardware to enthusiasts, I think there's an expectation for some base level of Linux support. And that can be, if you don't want to fool with it, that can be providing a blob to the community to do the actual, to like wrap up and make an actual driver out of, right? Like, that's okay in my book. I'm not an open source absolutist on driver stuff. I'm realistic about how companies protect their IP and stuff like that. And like, but like the fact that Elgato doesn't support Linux capture on their internal capture cards is ludicrous in 2026. The fact that like that MediaTek driver is janky because they haven't provided a Linux driver for it at this point. The fact that HDMI 2.1 has been a problem on Linux and AMD for ages because the HDMI forum and AMD were beefing, although that seems to be resolved now, which is good. But like that kind of stuff shouldn't, when we're approaching double digits for Steam hardware survey market share, I don't think that's acceptable anymore.
Well, and luckily, I'll get to this in a little bit. While I was at Computex, I had a lot of discussions around this. So let's
Linux Adam Patrick Murray waving the flag with the big boys.
I mean, one of the big things for me that I still dislike, and I think is still an issue that I needs to be figured out in some way, is that where to get apps still feels very confusing. You can get apps from so many different ways, and yes, you could just do with what's built into the package manager or the software app store that's on your distro, but like what about Flatpak? What about, downloading it directly from the website? What about downloading it from some guy who has made his own fork of it and installing it? Like, that's another thing that I think is on developers, right? And we saw this with Discord saying, hey, you know what? We heard you. We're going to have a native Discord app. But it's still, for a noob like me, like I still think that is one of the most confusing things, that it is like a hurdle that just does not feel like it needs to be an issue right now. And I know it exists. The same thing kind of exists on Windows, but for the most part, it just feels so much more complicated on the Linux side.
It's harder to get your system in a situation where one app works and the other app doesn't on Windows, because mostly you package those DLLs in the application folder versus using the system level ones. And I think for me, the whole Flatpak native app, community repository stuff on Arch makes a lot of sense as the kind of 3 tiers of, hey, do I want to have to fool with compiling this? Do I want to, do I need to have more access to the file system and the hardware on the machine than it would have otherwise? Like I ended up getting to a good spot with that, but it's definitely confusing, especially when you're starting out. And if you're on Ubuntu, where they also have snaps in addition to the Flatpaks, and like there's a whole other layer of complexity.
And once again, it doesn't need to be complex, but it's always in the back of my mind. It's just that feeling of like, yeah, but did you do it the right way?
Yeah,
there's probably a better way to do it. I don't like having that. Like, yeah. So I
probably your
really
fault.
Still don't like that one. I mean, that is true.
Yeah. Let's see. I had one more here. I don't like Adam making fun of Neri.
I don't understand what you're talking about.
It feels personal at this point. This guy named Adam, every time I talk about Neri, he's like, oh yeah, Neri's probably the problem. you're making it hard for yourself.
To be fair,
Yeah.
Deary is often the problem.
I mean, but KDE is often the problem for you, or GNOME or whatever. So, it's like you're talking about the piece of software that is the sharp edge of the knife, for lack of a better, I don't know. My metaphors are bad today. But
no, I mean, I think that this is the other thing that you should announce for linux.content.town is the Neary cast. You're going to do weekly updates about, whatever the new Neary update is.
Absolutely not.
You're going to feature different Neary configurations from people in the community.
I might do
you're going to have developer interviews.
Probably, yes. But no, we're not doing it. We're not doing Neary Nights with Will Smith, the After Dark podcast for Neary. Hey, welcome everybody. It's Neary Nights. We're here today to talk about the latest changes to the config.kdl. Noctalia is about to go 5.0, and you're going to find out what's coming next.
I'd subscribe
for
to
your
that.
super key.
I'd subscribe to that.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. That's a terrible idea. Should we take another ad break? You got anything else you dislike? What do you got? Anything else you want to get off your chest? This is your last chance.
No. Yeah.
Anybody in the community you want to call out that like is a dislike? You got bummers in there that you want to, this is the time to torch those bridges, man. Just get lighted on fire.
I mean, listen. Okay, I'm gonna have one here. Adobe. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah,
we're talking about support here. I don't have any news. I did talk about the Adobe stuff. I mean, there is a little bit of a glimmer of hope, which I will get to when I get to the Computech stuff. But for the most part, like that's just been a huge sticking point for me, and it sounds like for everybody else too. Is it like Adobe? What are you doing?
There was a thread on
what are you doing
on Blue Sky, I think the other day, of game developers who were asking Linux questions, and like just because of the way PSDs work and the way they integrate with game engines, people use a lot of PSDs making games, and they're not. We've talked about this before. They're not simple PSDs. They're multiple layers, multiple things happening on each layer, and those layers turn into like materials often for, say, texturing or surface or making terrain look right or whatever. So they're not just like, often they're like grayscale. Often a layer will be a grayscale image that has data that determines like where grass is on a scene and where grass isn't on a scene, or where rocks are on a scene, stuff like that. And like, there's just no equivalent to that. And you can't, dangerous is not exactly the right word, but it is dangerous, because if you edit those PSD files, which you can do with other tools, often they do unpredictable things to the file format that then means that PSD is no longer able to be imported into the engine or whatever. And if you've written scripts around exporting those PSD layers as individual materials that then get fed automatically into your game engine, then all of a sudden you risk jacking up your entire DevOps pipeline, and that's going to get your IT team upset with you. So anyway, the TLDR is, what the hell, Adobe? Like, people want to give you money, take their money.
Well, yeah. I mean, hey, speaking of taking money, let's take money for an ad break, and maybe the ad will be Adobe. Who knows? All right, we're back with one of our final check-ins. Will, you've been off doing stuff at home. I've been off traveling and gallivanting around the country, or the world
with Windows.
And so we both have different kinds of check-ins. But why don't you go first? I want to little look into what you've been up to. I miss you.
Yeah, so I was talking about this. I was sitting here the other day and I was talking to my wife, and I was like, hey, you know what? The MediaTek MT7927, it just sucks shit. I'm sorry, Adam. Beep. Beep. It requires a full power down reboot cycle sometimes, and it's all because MediaTek hasn't released a Linux driver. And she was like, what are you talking about? I don't care about this. Just take the dog is asking to go out, man. Take the dog out to go to the bathroom. It was like, but it's really bad, and all my computers have this chip now. It's a real pain in the butt. So anyway, it's nice to be back. Yeah. So I got that working.
What's the workaround?
You literally have to power down the machine all the way when it gets into a weird hung state, and like,
it's not a workaround.
No, it sucks. Like, you have to turn off the power supply on the back of the computer, or if you're on a laptop, you have to put it into like the travel/battery reserve mode. And like, Framework ships this chipset on their 13 on the old. I don't know what's on the new 13. I don't have the new 13, but on the old 13, this is their default Bluetooth Wi-Fi chipset. Is the 7927. It stinks. It's bad.
This is ubiquitous, right? I mean, that's why everyone uses
everywhere.
it.
Yeah, it's cheap. It's cheap and it's pretty good, except for this one thing. So like, it's funny because this morning I turned on my computer and I got to the. Let's see, I can't remember what it was, but it was like the thing immediately after the bootloader when it's like, hey, we're doing the UDEV rules or whatever. And hey, guess what? You're never going to believe what happened. It didn't work. It was stalled. And you know what the problem was? I turn it on and I go up to the Bluetooth icon. The Bluetooth icon has a big slash through it because it doesn't think that there's a Bluetooth device on the computer. And you know why that is? I must have turned it off bad yesterday or something. And here we are. MediaTek MT7927. You go to hell.
Thanks, MediaTek.
Let's see what else I against my better judgment, I tried the 007 game on the day I got an early code and I tried it a couple days before it came out. Thanks to the folks at IO for providing the code.
Wasn't that Steam Deck verified though?
It was.
Okay.
But it's I think it was yellow at first and then it got verified shortly after because I think some of the text is too small maybe.
Did you have issues?
No, it worked great. It was really good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to say
surprised.
like, oh man,
No.
it didn't work great.
Opened it up, turned it on out of the box. It was great, scaled right. Even stuff like DLSS worked, so it was nice. Well done.
Oh.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I set up this thing called Glance, or maybe Glances. Hold on, let me see let me check. It's Glance. So Glance is a home screen. It's like a home screen for your browser. And should I share this? Should I show you?
Sure. Yeah. Why not? Let's try
Here,
this.
let's try something new. Does this, we tested this and it works, right?
Yeah. You just hit the share button. Gives me a separate video file and I'll just overlay it in post.
Okay. So here we go. This is my Firefox window.
Okay.
And this is a share screen. This is like a home screen that I'm hosting here locally that has RSS stuff that I wanted, has stuff from Hacker News and Lobsters, which is like Lobsters is like a Hacker News type situation.
Okay.
It has weather. Yeah, I have YouTube videos from channels that I've picked. So I have like Simone, I've got Taskmaster, I've got Digital Foundry, I've got Twitch channels that I like that are online or offline. I've got RSS feeds for some sites that I like. I got PC Gamer here. Shout out to Wes.
Wait, this is like your own personal MSN.com?
Yeah. Is that not awesome?
Wait, how did you set this up?
It's a piece of software called Glance, and I have a different tab
it
for
runs
gaming.
in the browser?
No, it runs. It's just running in a little container in the background, and then it serves this page at localhost :8080.
Oh,
so this is like my gaming stuff. Top games on Twitch. What's hot today? What's in r/gaming news? Here's some videos
cool.
that are at the gaming channels. Right? It's cool, right?
Dang.
Yeah. And that took like a couple hours one afternoon to set up. I'm going to close this window now. And it's all configured with a text file. And you can do it on Windows. You can run it on a Docker container. I think my next move is to take the config file that I've got working here and put that in a Docker container so that I can host it where I can see it from all of my machines.
Oh, like on your home lab or something?
On my home lab, yeah.
Oh.
And then I'll just point all my browser's homepages to that. Now, the weird thing is Firefox doesn't let you set a custom URL as a homepage anymore. So I had to do an extension to make that work, which is goofy, but whatever. I think that's where a lot of their revenue comes from, is that Firefox like tab screen. So anyway, whatever. But yeah, it's pretty good. And then let's see what else.
Home lab.
Home lab. Yes. I got 2 home lab beats. One is that the old Plex server was crapping the bed. And I couldn't figure out what the problem was because it has like a 512 gig SSD in it. I was like, this should be fine. It was filling up, but it was only showing 100 gigs of total space available. And then I talked to a friend of the show, Brad Shoemaker, about it. And he was like, hey, you should look at LVMs because I bet you have an LVM because Ubuntu server does that sometimes.
What is the LVM?
LVM is a logical volume. So it's like you format the hard drive as ext2 or 4 or whatever file system. And then it makes these virtual file systems inside that ext file that Ubuntu mounts. Okay. And that's what was happening. So it had a 480 gig partition And then it had 100 gig LVM inside that partition that Ubuntu was installed on. And I was filling,
What was it filling up with? Just config files or like?
So I have like there's stuff on there.
Cache?
It's like there's caches for different things like the Plex cache lives on that SSD because that doesn't need to be saved if the machine goes away. Stuff like that. And the Plex cache can get pretty substantial. I had temp files for processes that are running in the background. So that stuff can take up some space, and it had a cache of like updates and installs. So it was like hundreds of 50 gigabytes of Debian updates that have gone out over the last 5 years that machine has been around. So I had to purge that stuff. Anyway.
So what's supposed to purge? I mean, is this how it's supposed to work? And it's just like it's just going to fill up over time, or is it supposed to purge these in some way?
So you I think probably are supposed to set up the purges for the logs and stuff like that. Like I set up a cap on the maximum size of the log files folder and stuff like that. And that helped, but it still was 100 gigs and I couldn't figure out why. So I found a tutorial that was like, hey, if you want to extend the size of your LVM, here's what you do. You boot off of a Ubuntu install CD, an Ubuntu server install disk. And then you run these couple of commands. And I did that and I got the file system big again. And things are seemingly fine. But also that B-Link is having a weird problem that I've never experienced before, where sometimes when you hit the power button, it boots up. And then sometimes in order to get the power button to work, you have to completely discharge it and clear the CMOS because there's some sort of like corruption. It seems like from looking at support threads for these B-Link machines are a little iffy because you get a lot of like grandparent types buying them because they're like $150 and they're like, I need a computer to talk to my grandkids. And as a result, the tech support results are like, oh yeah, I did this and this and this, and then it suddenly worked. And those three things are like, you restarted the printer and I cycled the power on my washing machine, and you're like, these things aren't connected. This is not. So it seems like the firmware settings file gets corrupt and it prevents it from powering on, and you clear the CMOS and that resets it. Or you can sometimes just do a complete power cycle and that'll refresh it. I need to probably reflash the BIOS or UEFI on that machine and see if that fixes the problem. But also that machine is about to get replaced. So maybe I don't care, which is the next step, which is I have that old Lunar Lake laptop here that's just been aging that has the dead screen. It's outside warranty and the screen was broken.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what if this has a little battery in it? It's kind of like its own built-in UPS. It's relatively low power. It has good video encode, good Linux support. What if I take my little portable monitor and plug that into it, and I set up Debian server on it or a server OS on it, and then just use the laptop as a home lab? What's the downside? What could go wrong? Because that's essentially what that little B-Link machine is. The B-Link I have is an N1505 or 105 or something, like a Alder Lake small. It's like a portable Alder Lake cheap laptop CPU. Celeron.
Yeah, which is usually a little bit more efficient. I mean, Lunar Lake is efficient, but I would assume that N150 is even more efficient. So
probably. I think I haven't actually plugged up the power meter yet. I need to probably do that and see. But I think when it's at idle, it's pretty close. Like the idle on that, on full bore, the Lunar Lake's definitely going to use more power. At idle, the Lunar Lake was roughly the same when I plugged them in and tested it in the office without running no GUI. Right, this is all CLI server stuff, so there's no graphics stuff running most of the time. It's really low power idle. But anyway, I'll report back. I'll try to get that finished before we wrap this show, or if not, we'll talk about it on the next show.
Curious,
but yeah, it's interesting. It's a real pain in the butt to work on because, like, I'm basically hanging the portable monitor over the dead existing monitor, and I think I said last week I had to disconnect. I had to open up the machine and disconnect the monitor from the motherboard inside the box.
Really? You didn't mention that.
No, it wouldn't. So the ASUS laptop wouldn't show the BIOS not on the monitor, on the built-in monitor, as long as it was plugged in, even though it wasn't working. So Anyway, it's all better now.
I mean, I think you should just cut that top panel off.
I mean, that's the final step. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. If you don't need the screen, disconnect
just
it,
keyboard
chop it off,
and stomp.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to think about that a little bit. What's the worst?
I mean,
thing
too bad it's not a framework, because then you could just literally take the motherboard out. But this is the next best thing.
Yeah. If it was a framework, you could pop the motherboard out, put it in that little Cooler Master case, and call it a day. But anyway, so I'll report back on that. And then the last thing is that X-Wayland app scaling stuff that I talked about at the beginning of the show. X-Wayland is the kind of portal between X Windows and Wayland that a lot of like GNOME uses it. A bunch of other places use it to run X11 apps inside Wayland. Basically, it's like a container in the same way that like GameScope lets you run games inside Wayland. This does the same thing for apps that are built for X Windows, the old thing that we don't neither of us use. It scales everything for high. If you have high DPI monitors and they're all the same resolution, it works great. If you use your lowest DPI monitor as your main monitor, it works great. I use my high DPI monitor as my main monitor and a low DPI monitor as a secondary, and it scales everything for that 1080p monitor. So when I look at it on the 1080p monitor, it looks great. When I move it down to my 4K monitor, everything is infinitesimally tiny, and I need binoculars.
Because it's like 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. And I don't like. It doesn't seem like there's a fix for this. Like Orca Slicer, this happens to, the thing that my 3D printer uses. It happens with FreeCAD, which is a CAD program I've been using lately. It happens like the slicer is not a big deal. I just run that on a secondary monitor because it's like you're in there for like 10 minutes and then it runs for like 15 hours, right? The CAD program, it turns out you want the big monitor on, and it's really hard to use on the little tiny 1080p monitor. So I would, if people have ideas about this, I would love to hear them. I'm a little bit at a loss. It's kind of poorly documented. Most of the documentation for this is like, the Arch high DPI wiki page is the best resource for this stuff, and it doesn't talk about Neri at all. So anyway, don't say it. Don't say it.
I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Other than I have no daily check-ins.
Okay.
Because I've been mostly at Computex.
Yeah.
I got in. I mean, I've been back for like a week and a half at this point. But as we all know, before I went, I loaded up a new Dell XPS 16 featuring Panther Lake. But I was like, I was there alone. The first trade show I was at alone. So I was like, I'm just going to run Windows. I don't have the time, effort, care to even try to run Linux. But I made up for it by having so many Linux conversations at Computex with all the vendors. From big ones to small ones? Like I was asking about Linux left and right, and everyone was like, "Oh God, it's one of those Linux guys again." Which I'm worrying that I'm becoming one of those Linux people.
I mean,
but
wear that. We'll let your freak flag fly, man. Did you do the thing that I asked you to do, where you walked around and were just like, "Hey, does anybody use Linux here?"
I thought about it, but most of the people at the convention were still not native English speakers, and so I was like, yeah, I didn't want to come in and just ruin the crowd. You could have gone nice, to the polite Taiwanese people. You
could have been like, you should maybe next year get a T-shirt made that says "Ask me about my Linux distro," and yeah.
So no, I did not talk to just normal people on the street about Linux, or even just normal trade show goers. But I did talk to a lot of vendors. I mean,
what was the vibe?
There's a couple things to pull from it. I would say one of them is what we had talked about before the break, was Adobe. So now more than ever, I'm actually starting to feel like that could change. Because NVIDIA came out with their RTX Spark platform, which is like more prosumer, where the DGX Spark was solidly in the developer camp. The RTX Spark is running Windows, and it's their first attempt at an ARM platform, kind of like Qualcomm, but Qualcomm hasn't really made certain inroads. But NVIDIA, I mean, with the big muscle they have, we're not only able to muscle in all the hardware vendors to say, hey, we're gonna have RTX Spark platforms that you'll be able to buy sometime in the future, but also software, because listen, we all know how ARM works on Windows and the trials and tribulations, and while it has gotten better, there are still plenty of hangups, and NVIDIA knows this. They've worked with Microsoft to say, yo, we want to release this thing, but you gotta get up to snuff. And they literally had one of the partners get up on stage, and well, not up on stage physically, but was Adobe, and saying, hey, you have to get your ARM support up to snuff. And even though we're talking about this in the context of Windows and getting it, working there, it shakes the tree at Adobe in a way that I'm hoping then will translate to Linux land. Like,
it seems like a little bit of hopium there, Adam.
There is. Yes, there is. But
okay, I knew there was a but coming.
Give me that. Give me that. No, I'm just saying. Just give me that little kernel of hope. Like, I mean, I think that's been one of the biggest problems with Adobe, is that they're stuck in their ways. They're charging forward. They're doing their thing.
They're not really going. The problem is they're actually not charging forward. They're just charging us, and they're staying pretty stagnant.
I mean, they're charging forward in certain ways, like AI, right? Like that's where their focus is.
I'm good. I don't need that.
But like, yeah, I think that there is a fire lit under them by NVIDIA and ARM and all that kind of stuff in a way that could benefit us Linux people.
Okay.
Like, who knows?
I remain skeptical.
I mean,
but
I wasn't able to talk to any Adobe representatives or anything, but I did talk to people at NVIDIA, and I think there might be some smoke there. So
I think anyway, the more Microsoft blows it with Windows, the more likelihood of a Linux Adobe, thing happening goes up, right? I make words good, it turns out, also.
Yeah. I mean, well, speaking of Intel, I guess, is that there is a couple different angles that I want to attack here. Number one, I actually did take briefings with Intel. This was about the G3 Extreme processor that they had essentially launched at Computex.
This is the Panther Lake with a big giant GPU, basically, right?
I mean, it's the same size GPU, it's just less CPU, and that's perfect for handhelds, maybe other devices that are gaming focused. It's actually pretty interesting because the way Intel is pitching this is that this is their first gaming CPU, meaning usually most of their CPUs have a GPU attached to it, but in this case they're saying, hey, we're focusing on the GPU and then there's a CPU attached to it, kind of thing. So like, it's not an Intel Core processor, it's an Intel Arc processor, which is kind of interesting. And that's a side note. Go subscribe over to Full Nerd. We're going to talk about it over there. Or Expedition Handheld. I literally have the new MSI Claw sitting in front of me that I'm testing, but I can't talk about it. But in the course of those conversations, Linux was brought up. I interviewed Tap, Intel's Tom Peterson. Go check it out, the interview over on PCWorld. Really good. And one of the things that I was asked him about was Linux support. And yes, Intel does contribute to the kernel. They have a whole team that works on Linux support, but they still lag in feature set, because even though they are doing a lot of work to make sure their hardware has support in Linux, they are talking a lot about feature set stuff like multi-frame generation, whether you're into that or not, whatever, power balancing, thread scheduling, all that kind of stuff that is very important, doesn't necessarily always get over to the Linux side. And so I definitely asked about him. I'm not going to get into the details. You just go check out the interview. It's even, I think I have a timestamp for the Linux conversation specifically. But Yeah, I mean the thing is that like as of right now they're saying, yeah, we're looking at it, but it's still a small slice of the market. It's not our focus, yada yada. And I'm like, well, that doesn't feel good. I mean, especially when a lot of these handhelds, people are just going to put Linux on them. So my hope is the more people talk about this and show that there is a desire there, the more that they're going to do some work on it. And the other interesting little piece of nugget tidbits is that around the Panther Lake and Arrow Lake, well, I guess I should say the Arrow Lake refresh launch on desktop, Intel introduced iBot, which is essentially a like a translation kind of layer for older legacy Windows applications to maybe get a little bit more performance out of newer hardware.
Yeah, it's to make Shadows of the Tomb Raider benchmark scores higher.
Right, exactly. Through the course of talking with Tap, he's like, yeah, we're actually doing a lot of work on translation layer efforts. Yes, iBot is something that works for Windows, but we have a whole team that are working on other ways we can translate things to work on different platforms. And I was like, wow, that's very interesting. Can you tell more details? And he's like, no. But
wait, when you say like, translate, are you talking about hardware platform, like running ARM code on Intel, or is this talking about Windows software on Linux?
I mean, there was no details to divulge, but my guess is that, I mean, he did say translation is kind of the future, right? Everybody's dealing with that right now.
Yeah.
NVIDIA is dealing with that. Intel, AMD, all the major manufacturers are having to worry about translation, whether it's ARM for Windows or Windows applications on Linux, all that kind of stuff. And it sounds like there is a lot of work being done in that space, and hopefully maybe that means more stuff coming in the future.
That's cool.
Yeah, which once again, it's a little pieces of smoke that you start to paint a picture kind of thing. The other thing that I got a lot of time with was I was hunting down the new Intel Wildcat Lake processor, which nobody was really focusing on, but obviously you and Brad Shoemaker are super excited for and hot on, especially for home lab stuff. And this was the launch, but nobody was talking about it. Like I went around and I filmed like over a dozen pieces of hardware that all have Wildcat Lake. Like I would say the most notable one is that new $700 Dell XPS laptop that's, essentially made to fight MacBook Neo. That's kind of the most splashy one that had Wildcat Lake in it. So there was a couple of laptops like that. I saw a ton of mini PCs, but then a ton of mini like edge device platforms. I'm
like
gonna
Raspberry Pi looking boxes?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
Because I literally dedicated some time just to walk all the show floors and just like poke and be like, okay, well, where can I see something? And I don't remember the first one I saw, but I was like, oh, it was a motherboard like the size of a Raspberry Pi kind of thing. But the sign said, it either said Wildcat Lake, which is just the code name, or it said Intel Series 3 or Core Series 3, whatever. I can't remember what the official nomenclature is, but I turned it over and there right on the package is Wildcat Lake, which doesn't look like a Panther Lake processor. Like it has a more distinctive
square,
style.
Right? It has the U on the bottom like Lunar Lake.
No, actually it doesn't. It's like a square and then a rectangle like right next to it.
Weird.
I can send you some footage. Yeah. And through the course of that, and I was trying to get B-roll at all the places that I saw it. A gentleman came up to me, and I actually don't. I have his card, but I don't remember his name. And we had a friendly conversation. And I was like, "Hey, listen, I'm looking for Wildcat Lake stuff. I'm more on the consumer side." And he's like, "Yeah, we're more than ever on the edge computing and the enterprise side. People are switching away from Windows. There's a lot of hate going around on Windows." Oh, his name's Nicholas, a strategic partnerships lead, and we got to talking about that kind of stuff. No. He actually worked for a company called Belina. And he's like, yeah, we make our own flavor of Linux called Belina OS, and I was like, Belina, why does that sound so familiar? I don't know, but I had a really good conversation, and I was like, oh man, I'm a Linux expert. I would love to chat with you more. And
Belina OS is the Belina Etcher people.
Yeah, this is the Boolean Etcher people. I didn't put that together at the time when I was chatting with him, but I've actually followed up with a coworker of his at Boolean OS, and yeah, Boolean OS is made for edge computing. This is not like a desktop Linux kind of thing. But
edge computing in this case is like if you have a machine in a factory that requires a computer attached to it, like this is an edge computing use case, right? Like a Pi hole is an edge computing use case, kind of.
Yeah, so something that needs a really lightweight OS to run something very specific, which
usually a
Raspberry Pi
single
is,
task machine, or like two tasks, something like that. Yeah.
And so it was just kind of funny to run into somebody who works and at a company that I was like, oh yeah, I've used Boolean Etcher. So
that's funny.
That was pretty funny.
Did you have a sense of what those machines are going to cost? What those Wildcat, like the small form factor machines are going to, are they like in the $250 range, or are they in the $600 range?
So I don't know. He was there to talk about the OS experiences, not necessarily sell the motherboard platforms. He was at a booth, and I don't remember the booth he was at, but like the booth was the vendor who's selling all the pieces of hardware. Gotcha. He was just there to kind of talk about, oh, hey, here's how you support it and that kind of stuff. So like, I did get some pricing from other vendors, but I mean, it depended on the platform, right? The Bear motherboard, I have no idea. I don't remember seeing prices on those, but the laptops, like I said, are trying to aim for that $600, $700 ish.
Yeah, it's part of Intel's like, hey, our laptops should feel like premium products push, I think is where they're at with that.
Which actually has a name. It's called Project Firefly. Okay. It's something they haven't talked about a ton, but yeah.
Are they going to make a movie about it in a couple of years and call it Project Serenity? And then everybody's going to be like, man, that was really good. We should do that again for 15 years. And then they probably aren't going to do it again for a whole host of reasons. Maybe too soon.
But yeah, it's just, I mean, those are some of the more pointed places where I had good Linux discussions. But yeah, almost every vendor I was talking with about Linux in some form or fashion. One of them, notably, was Corsair, because while Corsair didn't really have a ton of stuff being shown off at Computex, I mean, overall, it was pretty sleepy in terms of product launches. They did show me one of their sub brands is, what is that keyboard? They bought. Not Wooting.
Didn't they buy Wooting?
Was it Wooting? I can't remember. They bought a keyboard brand, and now they've kind of essentially like brought it in under house, and it's just Corsair branded kind of thing now. And they were like, oh yeah, we have this new, cheap keyboard, wired keyboard for esports players, whatever. I'm not a keyboard person, but one of the questions I had was like, oh hey, more and more vendors are starting to have configurators that are in a web version, which is really nice for people who use Linux like me. And the PM that I talked to, which was a PM that I work with, is US based, and he's like, the funny thing is that we've started to do that on some of our products because people who have been asking, to get outside of the IQ ecosystem, and then supposedly now, after all that work, they're getting a ton of pushback of people being like, oh wait, crap, why can't I control this piece of hardware and this piece of hardware in IQ at the same time? And so like Corsair does feel like they're kind of trapped in a rock and a hard place where every now in the future, every piece of hardware they're going to have to have a web configurator and still support IQ. They're kind of stuck in this weird spot because they've built out this huge IQ ecosystem. And if somebody has a Corsair, case and AIO that uses all IQ, and then they get this brand new keyboard and they plug it in, and you can't configure it through IQ. I can see how that can be frustrating, but also like,
I don't care. That's a them problem, not a me problem.
Yeah, I was like, just move all towards configuring it through the app. I think the weird thing is that we know people like this who want to buy the same brand, right? Like, oh hey, you know what? I like Razer, so I'm gonna have the Razer mouse and headset and keyboard and whatever components I can, and it's all configured in the same way. And I love that style. I think a lot of us PC builders kind of maybe don't identify with it and understand that there's a lot of people out there who do it that way. And so on the Corsair side, I can see how they're like, man,
it's a lost opportunity for
this
them.
This is weird.
But like that said, that is, I haven't used IQ in a long time, but my experience with all of that software from all of the vendors across the board, Logitech, Corsair, Razer, Asus, MSI, Gigabyte, none of it is great. Like the best you get out of that software is, it doesn't break my machine and it does the thing it's supposed to do. Right. I'm sorry that we're asking them to tear down the moat that they've built for the people that are brand loyalists, but also I'm not buying stuff that I can't use in the OS that I like when I have to reboot into Windows to change the settings on my Logitech mouse. It's not great. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, like my worry is that even though we're seeing momentum, we're not seeing enough yet to push over the edge. And the fact that some of them have started to do it and have web-based configurators, and now they're getting a blowback from other parts of the community.
Yeah.
That makes me worry. I will say I did ask about Elgato because I was just like, hey, dog, Elgato stuff, not a ton of good Linux support. I will say this PM is not over Elgato. They have their own
they have their own
PM team. And so I didn't get a chance to talk to them, unfortunately. But they were like, yeah, we hear you. People are asking, but for the most part, most streamers are using Windows still. And so like that's just where they want to focus. And so, I did tell them, I was like, hey, well, what if there's an operating system, that is
why are you putting this hex single on me? Use? Don't do this. Stop this. Stop
that
it.
Is just for streamers to get into, and maybe you could support this operating system called WillOS.
Did you really ask this?
I made the joke. Yes.
Oh my God.
That I know somebody who's potentially working on an OS for Linux just for streamers.
But
this?
That's pretty good.
They were like, wait, somebody's working on that.
I mean, look, there's a lot to be said. It's a good idea. You just fire it up. It has all your stuff there ready to go. You're in business.
I mean, to be fair, right? I mean, like they're not wrong. Most of the streamers out there are focusing on Windows devices to do the streaming.
Yeah. Hold on. Did the video that we recorded about the OBS performance hit, is that up on the...
No, that's not up yet. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, when they see that, people are going to be asking a lot of questions about appliance-based Windows OBS computing. That's all I'm saying.
So, I mean, I do want to follow up with the team over there because, like I said, I didn't get a chance to talk to them on site, and we're really, kind of asking some more pointed questions. But
well, it's on like the Stream Deck side, it could be as simple as them providing the people that are building Stream Deck alternative software access to the plugins in the store and like a upgrade path for the API backend so that they can do that stuff in a reasonable time and match the velocity of the core software on the Windows side, right? Like OpenDeck kind of taps into it's not a fork, but it's essentially like a frozen in amber version of the Elgato plugin store from like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, and those for the most part, like the big stuff works. But then somebody like Discord changes their API backend and the Discord plugin stops working and then you're in the lurch. So like, it's just not a great experience. And as expensive as this hardware is, like if they were selling, if it was New Year and you're buying like a budget version of the thing from Amazon that's like a fifth of the price, that'd be one thing. But they're selling premium stuff and I expect premium support for premium products. So,
I mean, I'll say the one piece of smoke that I think we can maybe grab onto is that where they're seeing a lot of new adoption is in production houses, right? Like they have that whole rack server, that 1U rack server Stream Deck kind of thing.
People are doing the keyboard with the thing built in, the whole deal, yeah.
I mean, they even had a mouse. Like they did launch a mouse that has a little Elgato, or a Stream Deck button on it kind of thing.
That's a little goofy, but whatever.
Yeah, that's a little goofy. But like, I think if they can get into that space, which I don't think is super entrenched in Windows, and they see maybe more of an uptick there, and they're like, oh, actually, hey, we need more open source alternatives to controlling this stuff in these larger production environments. Maybe that's something that can help, but we'll see.
And like the Bitfocus companion support, which is for that environment, is great, right? Like Bitfocus companion is really good if you have a studio type tool chain or a video processing tool chain or whatever. But it falls down on the, hey, there's no Discord plugin for Bitfocus companion, or there's no I can't connect voice mod to that if I want to do annoying voice modulation stuff, whatever. Anyway,
I mean the complexity, right, is the thing. Like maybe you could get there with the basic stuff, but then, is it ever going to be feature parity as Windows? But are they okay? Like, I think they should be okay with that. Yeah. Like to be like, hey, well, it's better than not having anything.
Look, if it supports, the thing that the OpenDeck deal does is it runs the plugins in a Wine container. So you're running the Windows compiled code on Wine, and then it provides hooks out to the places that it needs to, and it works really well. Like it doesn't have to be complicated. And if they provide the base level, then the community will pick up the rest of stuff, because that hardware is ubiquitous at this point, and they have clearly won the button wars, right? Right. So anyway,
yes. I mean, there's other stuff we can talk about at Computex, but the TLDR is that I was in a briefing. Like the amount of questions in the briefings around even the handhelds that I had, like everybody was talking about Linux, to the point where like the vendors, for example, at MSI, I was in a pre-brief for the new MSI Claw, and like half the questions were people, maybe not half, but so many questions were about, oh, hey, does this thing have official SteamOS support? Will this work with Linux? And, they're not saying any official support, but from MSI to 1xPlayer to plenty of other vendors that I was talking with, they're like, yeah, we're not claiming official support, because that's really hard to say, oh yeah, we have official Linux support. And obviously SteamOS, kind of needs Valve's blessing to be official SteamOS support. But a lot of these people are testing on distros. And then when we asked, like, hey, it's MSI specifically, what distros have you tested on? They're like, yes.
Okay.
Bazite, Nobara, like Kashi, right? All the ones that are like kind of gaining a lot of traction, especially for the handheld stuff. Like, are they focusing on it? Is there like official, hey, sweet, day one, you've got Linux support? No, but now more than ever, people are talking about it. People are testing against it. And like, it is top of mind. Like it just definitely made me feel like we're not just in an echo chamber or bubble. Yeah. This is being talked about. Yeah. People are taking it serious. Unfortunately, like it still is. Yeah, but it's still the minority of the market. And especially with a lot of these handhelds like the Claw, they have a partnership with Microsoft, and Microsoft's trying to do their thing to stave it off. But yeah,
to me, the folks that live in the enthusiast spaces, like the Elgatos and the Razors and those people, are probably going to see like their section of the market is probably larger than the hey, this is a mainstream computer type, the Dells and the Lenovos and those folks, right? Outside of the business stuff for Dells and Lenovos. So I'm curious. It seems like there's been an uptick in the enthusiast spaces that you and I live in more, to me, anecdotally, from the last year. And I'm curious. It's interesting that you're people are taking it seriously there. That's good.
Yeah. From the journalism side, people asking the questions. From the vendor side, people actually doing the testing and not just laughing it off. Mm-hmm. And, there was a lot of Linux discussion, believe me.
I talked to a friend at an unnamed large silicon manufacturer in the Bay Area the other day who was like, hey, do you know anything about testing on Linux? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, we need to spin up more of a Linux, like our Linux testing lab has been about server stuff for years, and we're like figuring out if we can do a client situation. And I was like, yeah, it's time to do client. You should be testing that internally more.
Always be testing. Anyway, that's what we say around
Yeah, that's what we've always said here at PCWorld since the very beginning.
Since the dawn of time. One last little quick check-in note I have is that while I was at Computex, a coworker of mine who's on the design team here at Foundry had emailed me saying, "Hey, my son who's around like 13 or 14. He does a lot of gaming on his computer, and he's come to his parents and said, 'Hey, mom and dad, I want to install Linux.'"
Oh man.
And so the dad emailed me saying like, "Oh, hey, I heard you know stuff about Linux," and asked some very pointed questions, like not to throw anyone under the bus. I mean, he's a Mac guy, so you know, he was just like, "Hey, listen, is it okay if my son puts Linux on his machine, and is he just going to ruin his life?" You know, like, and I'm joking here, but yeah, essentially, he was asking questions like, "Is it safe? You know, what should he do? You know, should he dual boot? You know, that kind of stuff." So like, hey, he needs to use this for school too. This isn't just a gaming machine, so like how much can he break it? And we had a really good frank conversation about it. And interesting enough, this 13, 14-year-old kid, he's already went down the rabbit hole. Supposedly he already wants to go with Cashy OS because like he's heard it's the hot new thing.
It's the choice of children everywhere.
Yeah,
also me,
you know,
apparently.
I pumped the brakes a little bit, and I was like, "Hey, just so you know that you're diving into the deep end. Not that it's not scary."
This is
and
what happens. You just get beardy the more you cashy it up.
Yeah, watch out. This 13-year-old's just going to all of a sudden grow a huge gray beard.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But it made me, other than the nice conversation with my coworker, it made me feel good. I was like, "Oh wow, the kids know what Linux is.
We're on the
They're
leading
the next
edge
generation
of what the kids are into. Next thing you know, we're going to be crumping."
Yeah. And the dad, which was once again a Mac guy, was like, "Yeah, unfortunately, he's not interested in Mac OS." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, good.
Yeah,
the kids are all right."
We don't need to tell anybody. Like, you don't need to slag on the Mac people. They're fine.
No, but that was really cool. You know,
That's cool.
Once again, a little piece of anecdote. Take it with a grain of salt, but it still feels like now more than ever, 2025 year of the Linux.
That's awesome. That's phenomenally cool.
Well, let's wrap it up. Do a quick couple pieces of homework, and we will get out of here. To remind folks, keep an eye on linux.content.town. Right?
Yeah. I literally, while we took a break in one of the ad breaks. Don't tell anybody, but I made sure that the domain registration had gone through, so it's ready to go up.
I can't buy it. Dang it.
No. And then send your questions. Send in questions. If you have a phone, you can use the voice recorder. Just hold it up. Don't do it in the bus or on the subway or someplace that's loud. Find a nice, quiet place, and ask your minute to 2-minute question. And I will pick the best ones and answer them on the first episode in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and if we have any final questions for Dual Boot Diaries, we are gathering them up. Go over to the link in the description. Go over to our Discord. There's a DBD-questions channel, and we're gonna I think probably next week have a big questions discussion.
Yeah, and I think
so.
The other big thing people have asked for is us to show our desktops, so we're going to set up to do that as well. Yep. Probably next week as well. So that's coming up next, I think, first. Yeah.
So get that in, and enjoy the final episodes with us. It's been a run.
Yeah, we've had a good time. It's been a good time. I think I said this when we said that it was coming to an end, but I don't think I ever would have gone through the hassle of doing this if I didn't have a reason, like if we weren't doing the podcast. And I'm so grateful that I did, because I've learned a lot, and it's changed my relationship with the computers in a positive way. So hey, shout outs to long live the Dual Boot Diaries, but also go to linux.content.town and mash that subscribe button.
Boom. Great. Well, thank you, Will. That was the end of the first of the final 4.
Yeah, 3 to go.
3 more to go after this.
Then you have to delete Windows.
Yeah, but we'll see.
We said it at the start of every episode. You can't, you're going to pick one. Which is it going to be, Adam? Think about it. Which of the children gets the axe?
We'll see.
Is that a Solomon thing? Who is it that has to pick the kids? I don't know. Anyway, somebody's gonna get cut in half. Somebody's gonna choose a child. It's gonna be confusing. Which of the kittens is the good one? That's the thing you have to ask yourself.
Okay, we got to get out of here.
Yeah,
I got to go.
You only can keep one. It's grim, but this is just
no,
how it
no,
works.
No, we're getting out of here. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
See y'all next week.